Folks, tonight we do not have a movie to talk about. As a matter of fact, we'll be putting the popcorn away and we'll be breaking out our serious caps. And we're going to be talking about the future of the theatrical industry as a whole. Because overnight, last night, Netflix purchased Warner Brothers for $83 billion. And that is about as bad as it sounds. And if that doesn't sound bad to you, over the next however long we go, I will get into exactly why that is so bad. And maybe why it might be good. It's not. Anyway, a little backstory here. This Warner Brothers bidding war has been going on for, I think, about 8 months. I mean, that's a complete guess. I was thinking more than 6, but I think less than a year. So yeah, I'll just go 8 months. I'm making that up. Anyway, it's something that I've been aware of. I've seen that it's going on, but it's not something that I've wanted to follow, really, even though it really is something I should. It's a major studio being sold, but that is a terrible, terrible thing, especially when it's being sold just to become a cog in another studio's wheel. That's a bad, bad thing. Just like to simply put it, that just means less movies are coming out. If Warner Brothers is being bought by a studio, that just means this is one studio now. And instead of 20 movies from Warner Brothers and 20 movies from this studio, it's going to be not 20 movies still, or maybe like 30 movies or 25. But we're not going to get those 40, however many movies. So it's a bad thing when a big studio, especially like Warner Brothers, which is coming off a record-breaking year, is no longer its own entity. That is terrible. And so this bidding war, it essentially came down to Netflix, obviously the winners, the champions, Paramount, and Comcast, which is like Universal and NBC as well. And that made it seem like Netflix is just like, obviously they won it, but Comcast is no small potatoes. They're much smaller than Netflix, but I think they're worth $100 billion to Netflix is like $450 billion. So obviously they're much smaller, but still they can go to the table, obviously, as they did. And Paramount, they're worth much less, but they were recently purchased by the Ellison family. We'll get more into them later, I think. But for short backstory, the patriarch of the Ellison family is Larry Ellison, and he is the founder of Oracle, and he's worth $180 billion. And another quick little, just to make it a little longer, his son, now I'll get into all them later, I think. Anyway, so I already said this, but Warner Brothers is an incredibly valuable tentpole to the industry. It's all one industry. I was going to say movies and in the theater industry, but it's just all one umbrella. Over the last 3 years, their movies have grossed over $10 billion. I kind of had to go out of my way and find all the numbers myself, but I also believe that is the most over these last 3 years. And like I said, this has been a record-breaking year for Warner Brothers. They've had, I think they're closing in on like, I don't want to completely over-exaggerate. I don't want to mess that up. But anyway, it's been an incredible year. It's been Warner Brothers' best year, maybe not best year ever, but definitely best year post-pandemic. And they're the hottest studio in town right now. So they're incredibly important. And then they're bought by probably the most evil corporation in town, the single worst thing to happen to the movie industry, probably. They were bought by Netflix. And let's just get into it. So they put out all their like little statements. They put out all their like garbage, rah, rah, rah. And I gotta put my reading glasses on and dig through them. And so a big part of the whole Netflix statement was that they wanted to entertain the world is what their main goal is. And like, sure, I just find that lame. That's why I wrote that down. And most of the statement is a lot of it is about IP. They're all about connecting the IP. They're like, we want Harry Potter. I didn't write what they use for Warner Brothers. Like Harry Potter, The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, we're combining it with culture-defining titles like Stranger Things, Squid Games, and K-pop Demon Hunters. These are not culture-defining titles. Let me just start off with, this is why Netflix is not serious. It is a 10-year-old studio. They make however many movies a year. 6 of them are real. They make probably 45 movies a year. 6 of them are real. 30 of them are absolutely laughable and made to be watched on a second screen. And then 10 of them are, I guess, inoffensive is an easy way to put it. Anyway, moving on. Another part of the quote is, another part of their statement upon release, upon press, it's whatever. I don't even know what time it is. I took the clock down so I wouldn't know what time it was. It's like a casino in here. I've even got Chinese guys smoking cigarettes over there. But anyway, Netflix expects to maintain Warner Brothers' current operations and build on its strength, including theatrical releases. Which, I mean, antennas should be going up for anyone, because theatrical releases and Netflix, they mix like piss and vinegar. And Variety said later on, in the near term, I'm not a bad reader. A lot of this is my own handwriting, all of it is, and it's all very bad. I'm terrible. I have terrible penmanship. In the near term, Netflix signaled it would keep Max as its own, on its own, while also, touted the addition of HBO and Max. So, HBO and Max products to its service. Now, that's completely contradicting itself. It's saying I completely struggled to read my own writing there, and I sounded like a bumbling idiot, like I am. But they talked about how they're keeping Max on its own, while also talking and boasting about how they're going to be able to add these titles to their own service. So they're talking out of two ends of their mouths. So that is why you really can't feel safe with them saying they're going to keep up this theatrical release. And Sarandis even said, I don't have this written down, but I saw it later on. He was saying that he thinks that these theatrical windows just need to be shortened. I got to have it written down somewhere. Ted Sarandis, in April to Variety of this year, he was asked if they were destroying Hollywood, and he said, we're saving Hollywood, which, like, what a freaking... He said, we're in a period of transition. Folks grew up thinking, I want to make movies on a gigantic screen and have strangers watch them, and to have them play in the theaters for 2 months and people cry and sold out shows. It's an outdated concept. That is not an outdated concept. That might be, the numbers might be down, but he describes the greatest experience possible, going to a movie on a gigantic screen with a room full of strangers, a movie that could have came out a month ago, could have been playing for a month, a movie that could be people have been talking about for a month. You're finally going to see it, a room full of strangers. You laugh, you cry, you throw your hands up, not really, and it's just an incredible time at the movies. That is not an outdated concept. People still want to do that. Nobody wants to watch these movies at home. When these Netflix movies come out, people don't care. Everyone watched Happy Gilmore within I think this is a verbatim thing Bill Simmons said, so don't call me out. I don't know if I mentioned that, but my first source when this news broke was to go to the Bill Simmons podcast. He's really the only guy that I could stomach listening to because of how much of this news just destroys me. I did not want to listen to people even discuss it. But anyway, he said people talked about Happy Gilmore for the first 3 days, and then that was it. I mean, I don't even know if people actually watched Happy Gilmore. I feel like it was all clips, and people just kind of threw it on a second screen. And if that movie was in theaters, can you imagine how big that would have been? How much bigger that would have been? This clown Ted Sarandis says that it's an outdated concept. But if he puts Happy Gilmore 2 in the theaters, I mean, I don't know exactly how much money it makes. But the movie sucked, and it still makes, $100 million? $200 million? $350 million maybe at the absolute max? This would be it wouldn't be a phenomenon, I don't think, but it might have been. That first weekend, it would have been freaking huge. Everyone would have gone to see it, and they just punted away that money. That's just money that they're leaving on the table. He thinks it's an outdated concept. That's just him talking out of his ass, which you're confusing for his mouth because it looks the same. I kind of like that. I came up with that off the top of my head. I don't know if that was any good. I don't think it was. If you're fortunate enough to live in Manhattan, this is Sarandis in April, you can walk to the theater. That's terrific. Most of the country cannot. What? You can walk to the theater if you live in Manhattan? Yeah, no shit. But in 75% of the country, even 60% of the country, you can drive to the theater. Hey, Ted, you ever heard of Cars? You ever heard of Cars, Ted? People drive them to movie theaters, and they have these big, big black tops with lines on them where they can park their cars while they watch the movies. Then they can drive their cars home, Ted. home, where they live, not a place to watch movies, where people live and sleep and eat and shit. Not a place to watch these movies. People drive to the movie theaters, Ted, you dumbass. Anyways, the theater decline does not bother him. The consumer wants to watch movies at home, is another note Sarandis hit. Sure, consumers love to watch movies at home. I love to watch these movies at home. This is something that the guy on Simmons said, Matt Baloney. But the reason that people love to watch a lot of movies at home, especially the old movies, is because they remember, they have these experiences from the theaters. People prefer to go to the theaters to watch their movies, and they always will. I know that that might not be 100% of the people. That might not be, I'm not even gonna get down to the numbers, but that when you cut people, they want to go to the theaters. There's a drive in people to want to go to the movie theaters. And sure, it might not be for all movies, but that is because of people like Ted Sarandis, who's trying to program people to not want to go to the movie theaters. But it's as simple as you put movies in theaters and people will go see them. I feel like I'm kind of losing it here. But anyway, what do I got here? I feel like I've kind of got my Sarandis quotes. This was him today with the Hollywood Reporter. This will not be a change in approach for Netflix or Warner Brothers. Over time, Windows will evolve to be more consumer friendly, to be able to meet the audience where they are quicker. You should count on, this one's different. To meet the consumer where they are quicker. So if you're reading between all these lines that Ted Sarandis is saying, he's saying that he said that the 45-day theatrical window is unrealistic. He's saying that he wants to get these movies to the consumer, he wants to make these movies releases more consumer friendly. That was a bad air quote. If you're going to do it, you got to at least put your heart into it. What's going to happen is these movies are going to be coming out and they're going to be on this like Netflix style release. They're going to be out for like 3 weeks. And I don't think that it's going to be as limited as Jay Kelly, where Knives Out 3, where it was 35 theaters nationwide. These Warner Brothers movies, I think, will still release everywhere. They'll still release in 3,000, 3,500 theaters. But it's going to be for like 3 weeks or for like a month. Can you imagine if Top Gun Maverick played for like 3 weeks? It would not be nearly as big as it was, and it wouldn't have made half as much. I think that's an exaggeration. It wouldn't have made 30% as much as it did. These movies playing forever in the theaters and making them an attraction is what makes them so special. One battle after another. Played in theaters in what? Middle-ish of September 21st, I believe, is when it came out. And it didn't come out. It played in theaters-ish for 6 weeks, for eight weeks, I should say, for 2 months. And then it didn't come out on a digital release until like November 26th. And when it did come out on digital release after 2 months, it got another life. If you're going to dump these movies out into theaters for 3 weeks, then fart them out on Netflix after that, people are just going to not even care. Netflix is like a TikTokification of movies. They just want you to constantly be consuming, to going on to the next terrible Kristen Bell romantic comedy TV show where she's falling in love with the guy and she's just trying to start up her donut shop her bakery on her own, and she just doesn't know how she can handle it because she just met a guy from her past as well. I don't know. Anyway, what else do I have here from Zaslav? Or not from Zaslav, another evil man, Ted Sarandis. You should count on everything that is planned for theaters to go to theaters. So that is like, you should. I mean, with these press releases, everything that you want to hear is going to be with should and like plan on and count on. And I'm sure all these movies will get these theatrical releases. Like I said, the Batman 2 will get a theatrical release. It will play in all these theaters. I just seriously doubt that it's going to play as long as it does. As long as it should. Tom Cruise has a movie coming out next year. Tom Cruise. Ever heard of him? He's not going to stand for that movie playing for 21 days and then going on to Netflix. That's just not... He'll kill someone. He will legitimately have people killed before he lets that happen. He might have me killed for saying that. he doesn't want 45 people seeing that. I feel like this is one that might even be watched by far less than that. But anyway, this is going to create an absolute, I think, is there going to be a coup? I think that's just going to, people are going to be fleeing. Tom Cruise signed an exclusive deal with Warner Brothers. Like, it's just, it's such, I don't know what the point I was trying to make there, but what was my initial point here? Oh, he was saying that you can count on these movies still coming out in theaters. Like, sure, but going forward, it's the movies that are currently planned. If you don't think he's going to try to get, like, oh, the Justice League or, like, Wonder Woman, like, I don't even know why I'm cornered into DC. Half these movies from Warner Brothers are going to be Netflix exclusives. I'm absolutely sure of it. And while they might not be, I just said I'm sure of it, but they might not be Netflix exclusives, they'll get that 600 theater release maybe, or 35 theater release. I think it's a complete disaster. I completely lost it there. I kind of went on a little, I'm just tired, leave me alone. Now, Paramount was the runners up here. They I guess came in second place is how it seems. And that's because they've kind of been like squealing like a baby, and that's what you should do. I don't hate that. What they said today, they put out their own statement. Let me just get to it. Oh, I wrote so small and I have such terrible handwriting. Netflix does not have the same incentive to release films in theaters and will be incentivized to use Warner Brothers IP to enrich their streaming and harm theatrical. And that's 100% correct. Now, there's a lot of people just saying sour grapes, and that is obviously true. But everything that they say there is 100% correct. But, all right, another thing they said. Netflix, if combined with Warner Brothers, will reduce the number of films for theatrical release. All right, that's another thing they said. I don't know why I wrote that. I guess I wrote that down just to be like, well, hey, buddy. I mean, if Paramount bought it, there would be less movies for theatrical as well. Anyway, now, what makes Paramount interesting is the relationship between the Ellisons and Donald Trump. Now, when they bought the company in, I believe it was, I had it written down here, January of 2024. They purchased it in January of 2024. Now, they bought it as the Skydance company. The Skydance studio purchased, Skydance Pictures purchased Paramount. And Skydance is owned and operated by Larry, previously mentioned character, Larry's favorite baby boy son, David Ellison. He's the president of Skydance. And so they purchased Paramount. And so now they are backed by the Ellison family. And when they did, when you buy a studio like that, when you buy a big, like a CBS, a corporation, you got to get approved by the FCC. I honestly, whatever. I was going to say, I didn't know. I was going to try to say who ran the FCC. I thought I had that off the top of my head. No, I do not. And right around when that happened is when Stephen Colbert's show got canceled. And so there was a lot of like people connecting dots, or I guess kind of conspiracy theorizing. But I honestly think maybe more people connecting dots. I don't really care. I'm not getting into that whole Colbert thing. With people saying that they think that Colbert's show was canceled as like the Ellisons doing Trump a favor to slide the approval through. And because the Ellisons are Trump supporters, they're Republicans. They're worth $180 billion. I mean, what else do you expect? Now, what else do I have here? That's kind of it for that whole storyline. For their purchase. And now, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, Trump just like asked them to make Rush Hour 4. He asked the Ellisons to make Rush Hour 4. Apparently he loves Rush Hour 4. He loves Chris Tucker and he loves Jackie Chan. I mean, it's not surprising that he loves, like, you can definitely see him loving seeing the two of them running around. I guess it kind of seems like Trump's wheelhouse. I've never seen the movie, but just from my assumption. But yeah, I think he just asked the Ellisons to make it, and they're just making it, and it's being directed by a guy who made a documentary about Melania Trump. So there is like a little bit of drama with the Ellisons could work with Trump, and he met with Trump today, Larry, and I don't know if it was Larry or David. I think might have been both. Who cares? But they met with Trump today. And basically they were just like, hey, could you block Netflix from doing this deal because we're buddies? I'm sure they said more words than that, and that was just the gist of it. But anyway, I would not be surprised at all if Trump did block Netflix from doing that because they are buddies. That would not be the least surprising thing that Trump has done. I guess that would just be children in general. Anyway, so yeah, I guess we kind of do have to call in the commander-in-chief here. We just got to trust whole 45, 47 on this one. Because if he could step in, and it wouldn't even be the best thing in the world, obviously, like I had said, if Paramount buys them instead, and it would set such a terrible precedent if the president could just pick and choose which studio, which company buys another company here. Not that it would set a precedent, it would just not be great. It would not be a great thing. But honestly, it kind of would. If he could kind of screw over Netflix here, that would be pretty incredible. Nobody tell him that Netflix made Cuties. Hopefully he doesn't put that together. Otherwise, he might be on their side. But for now, I think we might have hope. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, like I said, the timeline on this, it's going to go like at least another year until anything really happens. They said Q3 2026. So like next fall at the earliest, I would say, is when all this will actually go, like everything will actually transition and go down. So there still is that nothing happens chance. There's still that butterfly's whisper of a chance. And maybe a mysterious billionaire will come out of nowhere. A mysterious 100 billionaire will come out of nowhere and just buy the Warner Brothers and keep it as it is. Wouldn't that be nice, folks? Wouldn't it? No, but there's been a lot of doom and gloom, especially for me over these I've chopped this up into a couple. It's been chopped up into a couple, so I don't know how long I've been going. But there's been a lot of doom and gloom about this and how this is the worst thing that could have ever happened, and it's like the worst possible day in Hollywood. And that could very well be true. That is awful. I'm not reading anything. I'm just looking at, it looks like things are falling off my shelf. Anyway, they're not. They're not. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. But it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of theatrical. It's not like feel like I've been saying DC movies a lot for examples, but it's not like the next Superman is going to be a Netflix original. It's not like the Alejandro Inarritu, I don't think I even pronounced that right, trying to be an asshole taking out a name like that. The next Tom Cruise movie is going to be a Netflix exclusive, or if Paul Thomas Anderson, or if Ryan Coogler makes his next movie with Warner Brothers, I don't think that it will be a Netflix exclusive. I don't think that Netflix is stupid. They're smart. They're clearly smart. They're clearly very good at making money, and they clearly know how to make money. And Warner Brothers just makes so much money theatrically, and they're just not going to punt on that. That's not something that a company can do. That it's just, if they do, it will just, I'm not going to say that it will fall apart, leaving this kind of money on the table, but it will just create such a bad like aura around the company. I don't even know if it will matter, or around the studio. I don't even know. Again, I don't know if that will matter, but I say all that just to say I don't think they're not going to leave this money on the table. Netflix is not stupid. They're evil, but to be evil, you got to be pretty freaking smart. So, while this is not good, this is awful. It's worst case scenario. I've said it ad nauseum this episode. This is terrible and awful for the industry and for movie theaters going forward. But it's not the end of the world, is what I am willing to say. And if it is, I mean, no. There will always be movie theaters. People like to say, and I know it's just exaggeration. I know it's just people like to say the sky is falling, as do I. But when it comes to movie theaters, just don't say that. Don't say that shit. Don't joke about that shit, bro. Don't joke about movie theaters ending. Don't joke about theaters dying. Movie theaters will never die. There will always be a hunger to see these movies in the big screen, and they will always find their way to the big screen. I don't know. I'm trying to say something profound. I think it's like 3 o'clock in the morning that I'm doing this, but yeah, it's a dark day, folks. But we ended it with a little bit of sunshine. Wasn't that nice?